setter and closer reporting tools built right into SPOTIO's already existing My Reports tool. In the past, SPOTIO has been able to allow users to create their own custom reporting, but has fallen short when it comes to passing off appointments from a setter to a closer. This basically entails any workflow that has users going out into the field and generating appointments or activities, and then assigning those to another user to actually run those appointments and close them. In the past, we've kind of allowed information to get lost in translation, if you will, whenever a closer receives a new appointment from a setter. But I think what you'll find is with some of SPOTIO's new and improved reporting features, we're now able to fully capture that picture of appointments that are being passed off from one team to another. So I'm going to start off today by walking through the new features that are now available in our reporting tools, and then I'm going to take you through some examples of how these reports can be set up for teams that work in a setter-closer model. So first things first, I'm going to just review the teams that I have here in my account. So I currently have 3 setters that are going out and generating appointments for my 2 closers. And those setters for today are going to be Adam, Larry, and Sammy. And my closers are going to be Eddie and Sally. In addition to our new setter-closer reporting capabilities, a new feature that we've actually had out now for a few months is our new capability to allow you to disposition custom appointment results. So in the past, we've reserved this feature for strictly visit results and call results, but now any of the activities that you run inside of SPOTIO, including appointments and custom activities, will also allow you to put in custom dispositions for that activity. Meaning that when a setter goes in and books an appointment for a closer, that closer can then go run that appointment and put in one of these custom dispositions, which we're then able to track and run KPIs off of. So now I'm going to jump in and show you a few of the new features inside of our My Reports tool. So if I come in and hit the New Report button, you'll notice that inside of our report building tool, the first thing that we now have is better visibility control. Each of these toggles allows you to select whether or not you want your report to be completely private to you, public for all teams to see, or our new feature, by role, which basically restricts the report to only users that should be able to see the information in it based on the permission settings of your account. In addition to these new permission toggles, the big new features that we have for setter closers come into play when you drag in the categories and metrics for your report. So you'll notice here if I drag in sales reps, let's say I want to set up a report that reports data for my setters. I'm going to come in and actually name this column setters. And you'll now notice new options for that appear under the Show Record tab. This is basically allowing us to determine what type of users we want to pull into this report. Before, there was just a standard user type. We didn't actually allow you to identify the types of users that were being reported on. But now you'll notice 4 new options. One for activity created by, so that's who is booking or creating the appointment or activity that we're reporting on. There's assigned to activity, so that's who is this appointment or activity actually being assigned to, typically your closer. And then we also have both of these options for records if you're reporting on actual objects like leads and opportunities being created in your account. So for today's report, since I'm actually generating one based on my setters, I'm going to go ahead and select the option for activity created by. The typical use case that we see is setters will actually go out and be the ones booking or creating the appointments in the field for the closers. From there, I'm going to go in and select my 3 setters. So this is going to be Adam, Larry, and Sally. So if I come in, I'll select Adam, come down, select Larry, and I apologize, it's actually Sammy. That's my other setter. So now that I have my setters selected, I'm going to drag in the activities metric. And you'll notice that it immediately pulls up the total number of activities for each of those users, right? So you got 43 for Sammy, 20 for Larry, and 10 for Adam. However, if I go in and customize these activities, you'll notice a new drop down inside of the activities section, specifically for activity date by. What this means is now we're able to select what type of date we want to pull these activities based on. So before it was just a single static date that was completely based on the due date of the activity, whereas now we have options for created on date. So that is what date this activity was originally generated or created on. We have the due date like we did before, which is when the activity is scheduled for. And now we also offer completed on, which is when was the actual activity completed, which helps for tracking things like overdue or appointments that showed up early and stuff like that. So for this example, since I'm creating a setter report and I'm wanting it to go off of the date that they're creating these new appointments, I'm going to select created on, and I'm going to come down and actually click into appointment. You'll notice inside of here, you're now able to select, just like before, the all scheduled, or completed options for each activity, but we also have these new options for the actual appointment results. So this allows you to get even more detailed in your KPIs by going in and actually selecting the specific results that you want to have been selected for the different activities that your reps are running. Finally, the final new feature that we've released is this new option to display over time, which basically takes your report and actually displays the information in it by either day to day if you're selecting a weekly view, or month to month if you're selecting a larger view like a year or some sort of bigger time frame. So now that I've talked through the features, let's actually jump in and look at some specific reports that use these features. So the first one, that's probably our most common one, is this report that I've created called Appointments Scheduled for a Closer. So if I come in and edit this, I'll take you through basically how I set this up. So I put in both of my closers, Eddie and Sally, and I set those closers up as the ones assigned to the activity. Again, this is the typical use case when you have canvassers being the ones creating the activities, and the closers being the ones that are actually running and assigned to those activities. From there, I went in and I created a column for totaled scheduled. So this was all of my appointments that had been scheduled for a certain time frame. I added that column in so I could just get the total number of appointments each of them had booked for them. From there, I selected a column for pending. So this shows me how many of those scheduled appointments are upcoming, meaning they haven't been completed yet, so that I can know how many appointments each of these reps still need to run for this week. Finally, I used our breakdown column for completed, and I did this by due date, meaning that these were ones that were completed with a due date for this week. And inside of there, I actually used the breakdown option to show all of the different breakdown columns for those appointments. So what that means is in this first column here, I have the total number of appointments that were completed by each of these users. And then next to that, I'm able to see the actual breakdowns of those results. So I can immediately tell that they've had 4 out of 16 of their appointments no-show. I can see how many of them have been rescheduled, and then those different dispositions associated with my appointments. Now, that was more of a closer report, but if we jump into specifically a setter report, what we'll find is basically the reverse of all of the controls that we just selected. So if I come in and look at the 3 setters that I've identified, I'm going to go off of activity created by instead of assigned to, because that's basically, I'm looking at the setters, the ones that are creating the appointments. I want to go off of them as the owner. And then in here, I'm going off of just a strict count of appointments scheduled. So for this example here, I have created on all appointments, don't need to put in a result. And basically what this is going to allow me to do is at a very simple glance, see exactly how many appointments each of my users have scheduled. If I do want to break that down over time, all I would need to do is come in, select this display over time option, hit apply, and now it's going to actually show me the date that they booked all of these appointments. Since I set this up for a demo today on 3/13, that's why they're all appearing there. But for a normal use case, you would see basically a nice breakdown of each day of the week, how many appointments each of your canvassers were actually booking for those days. So finally, the last reporting option I want to take you through is how you can actually use some existing features that we have with these new setter closer reporting tools to generate some specific metrics and KPIs. So I have this report that I built called no-show rate setter, and I'm going to hit edit and kind of walk you through what these options are. So for this report, I'm pulling in all of my setters, right? These are the people that are creating these appointments for my closers, pulling in all 3 of those users. Then I'm going to pull in a column specifically for appointments that have been completed. So out of those appointments that have been booked by these setters, how many of them have actually been completed by a closer? So you'll notice here that this number is actually a little bit lower. We had a total of 30 that they had generated for this week, and only 25 of them have been completed. And now out of those 25 that have been completed, I'm able to see a breakdown of, 11 of Sammy's appointments have been run, 10 of Larry's, and 4 of Adam's. Now, in addition to that, what I've done is I pulled in another activity column, and I've specifically made this my total count of no-shows. If you remember, inside of my appointment options, I had a specific result for no-show, and I set up this column to only pull in appointments that have been completed for this week and marked as a no-show. What this does is it gives me the total number of these completed appointments for each user that were marked as a no-show by my closer, which from there, I'm able to generate a no-show percentage. So the way you do this is drag in a calculation column. You can do a math equation between the pre-existing data columns that you have in your report, and then you can set it up to show as a percentage. So all of this work, what it ends up resulting in is a very simple to run report that shows you, okay, out of my 3 canvassers, this is the total number of appointments that they've booked that have been completed this week by a closer. And out of those completed appointments, these are the number that have been marked as no-show and generating their no-show percentage. What's great about this is it really helps from a coaching standpoint, and as well as the quality of appointments being set by your setters, right? If you have a user here like Adam that's at the 25% no-show rate, maybe he's not doing nearly as good of a job as somebody like Sammy, who has a lower no-show rate compared to the average for all of your canvassers. In addition to this, I did want to show just another over time report. And again, you set these up by going in, pulling in a metric and checking this box here at the bottom to display over time. But that will run off of any metrics that you've pulled in. And for this one, I believe I'm just running it off of general appointments for the week. So just to recap the newest features in SPOTIO's My Reports tool, I'm going to start off with a new report here just to take you through it. Basically, the 2 biggest new features are the ones that appear as new options when you drag in either a category or a metric to your My Report. The category option is going to allow you to select what type of users you want to pull into this report for the metrics that you're running. So whether those are the users that are creating the appointments or the ones that they're assigned, the appointments are assigned to. And then for the activities section, the big new features we have are this drop down for the type of date, whether we're going off of the created on date, due date, or completed on date. And then also, again, that option at the bottom of any activity reporting for display over time. Finally, a feature that we've had out for about a month now that's also very handy in setting up these reports is that new appointment result feature, which again, you can set up inside of your workflow settings. So if you jump back to workflow within your account and go into activities, this is where you can actually configure and customize all of these results for any of your activities. My examples today have just been off of appointment, but you can create and customize those for custom activities as well. And then all of those result options will pull into this same reporting view, meaning that you can break down your reports and generate new metrics and calculations based on specific activity results. So hopefully that's been some helpful information. Please feel free to reach out to our CX or support team if you have any specific questions on this information. And best of luck with the new setter and closer reporting tools.